chemistry made simple. In this video, I'm going to teach you how to find the shape, the bond angle, and hybridization of molecules. Let's have this simple question on the board. What is the shape and the bond angle in a molecule of nitrogen trichloride? To find the shape or the bond angle in any molecule, the first thing you are going to do is to draw the structure of that molecule. And I would like to use the knowledge of covalent bonding. Now we have two different atoms. We have nitrogen and 3 atoms of chlorine. So one of these atoms must be a central atom. When you want to draw a covalent bonding, one of the atoms must be a central atom. Then since we have 3 atoms of chlorine, nitrogen will be the central atom. Then nitrogen is the number 7 in the periodic table. You are going to need the valence electron for the structure. You are going to need only valence electrons. So the shell electronic configuration of nitrogen is 2, 5. So it shows that it has 5 valence electrons. So let's draw the electronic shell of nitrogen. This is nitrogen with 5 valence electrons. Now 3 atoms of chlorine want to share electron with nitrogen. So you are going to drop 1 electron each for each atom of chlorine. So out of these 5 electrons, drop 1 electron for the first chlorine, drop 1 electron for the second chlorine, then you drop 1 electron for the third chlorine. Then don't forget that chlorine has what? 7 valence electrons, 2, 8, 7. So it needs 1 more electron. So it will share 1 electron with what? With nitrogen. So we are going to use the valence electron of chlorine. So let's bring in the valence electron of chlorine. So this electron is coming from chlorine. So out of these 7 electrons, we have dropped 1. So they will share electron with each other. So it remains 6 electrons. So for the first chlorine, so the second chlorine will do the same thing. The second chlorine will also share electron with nitrogen. So we drop the remaining 6 electrons. So likewise the third chlorine. So we drop the remaining 6 electrons. So this is the structure of nitrogen trichloride. So let's change this structure to this form. So nitrogen is at the middle. Then don't forget that out of the 5 electrons on nitrogen, we have used 3 electrons, 1, 2, 3. So it remains 2 electrons. So we are going to pair those 2 electrons. So this 2 pair of electrons is known as lone pair. It's known as lone pair. Then what is lone pair? Lone pair is a pair of electrons that are not shared with another atom. Then the following electrons are called what? Bonding pair. These are bonding pair. Now nitrogen is at the middle. So we have 1 chlorine at this side. There is second chlorine at this side. Then we have third chlorine down. Then we have a pair of electron on nitrogen. So you are going to focus your attention. Your attention must be focused on the central atom. So you have a lone pair of electron. So this lone pair of electron will repel these 2 bonds. It will repel the 2 bonds. So the 2 bonds will be pulled downward. Now you are going to have something in this form. So this bond will be pulled downward. Then the second bond at this side, very close to this lone pair, will be pulled downward. So you are going to have your chlorine here, then the second chlorine. So the third chlorine will be at the middle. So let's join what we have together to get the shape. What's the name of the shape? Join your lone pair with chlorine. So lone pair with chlorine at this side. So join these chlorine atoms and these chlorine atoms together. So this is what? A pyramid. Then we call this what? A trigonal pyramid. This is a trigonal pyramid. So the name of the shape is trigonal pyramid. Then what is the bond angle? What is the bond angle? So it is what? It is always 120. The bond angle is always 120 degree. Their bond angle is always 120 degrees. So when you have a lone pair of electron, when you have a lone pair of electron and three bonding pair, when you have a lone pair of electron on the central atom and three bonding pairs, their bond angle is always what? 120 degree. So the bond angle is 120 degree. Then what type of hybridization? That is another thing you are going to learn. What type of hybridization? Now calculate the steric number. You are going to calculate the steric number. Steric. Then what do I mean by steric? Steric is the sum of the bonding pair and the lone pair. Steric number is the sum of the bonding pair and the lone pair. Then how many bonding pairs do we have? The chlorine is a bonding pair because it is sharing electron with nitrogen. So we have 1, 2, 3. We have three bonding pairs. Three bonding pairs. Then how many lone pair? We have just only one lone pair plus one lone pair. So 3 plus 1 will give us 4. So when the number of lone pairs and the bonding pair equal to 4, you call it sp3 hybridization. When the sum of the lone pair and the bonding pair equal to 4, you call it sp3 hybridization. So when the sum of the bonding pair and the lone pair equal to 3, that will be sp2 hybridization. When it is equal to 2, you call it sp what? Sp hybridization. So this nitrogen trichloride is what? sp3 hybridized. It's very simple. Keep on following me for more.